The fine weather and rather odd working patterns that we're experiencing under the current restrictions have meant I've been able to get out my bike each day for the exercise that we're presently permitted. It's been wonderful cycling along the almost deserted lanes around Lichfield, watching the farmers busily preparing the fields and planting the next lot of crops, seeing the hedgerows erupting into bloom, and listening to the sound of the birds uninterrupted by the usual noise of traffic, although the tractors are still very much in evidence. Well, it was wonderful until the afternoon when my bottom bracket gave out as I made my way through Tutbury, and I had to call Sally to come and collect me. As she hadn't left the house for quite a while, she was very excited at the prospect of a trip in the car, and I was left to sit in the sunshine watching the queue for the pharmacy snake along the main street. There's an awful lot of ill people in Tutbury, judging by the length of the queue. Anyway, we got the bike back and I managed to get it booked into the only cycle shop that was still open in Lichfield. And there it remained for quite a while. They were waiting for a delivery of parts, apparently. So in the meantime, I was forced to lumber round the lanes on the old heap of armoured steel and crunching cogs that I usually use just for nipping into town. It's rather heavy and the gears aren't really designed for going fast. That means I was constantly being overtaken by lycra-clad cyclists on flash bikes whose cheery greetings were like stabs to the heart. I'm almost ashamed to post my statistics on Strava. For those of you who don't know, Strava's an app used by other cyclists to rub in just how much better they are than everyone else. Anyway, I was up early one Sunday morning for a meander round the lanes before anyone else was out and able to laugh at me, and found myself out near Elford. I stopped for a moment to have a quick chomp on a Tunnock's caramel wafer, and once the sound of my gasping had calmed down, I was suddenly aware of the amazing silence. It was before the agricultural machinery was out of the barns, and there wasn't a car, lorry, or train in sight. I couldn't even see a dog walker or a jogger. For a few moments, even the birds were quiet, and the countryside was bathed in the milky sunshine of the new day. It was a short interval of complete and utter peace, the like of which we very rarely get to experience under ordinary conditions. And it's in those brief moments of peace that you suddenly become aware again of what an amazing world we live in. And you can connect with God in a way that's very different from the usual. That's not to say that God doesn't communicate with us in the usual busyness of everyday life, but every now and then he grabs our attention just through the sheer stillness of moments like that Sunday morning snack break. That's how he connected with the prophet Elijah when he was out doing a bit of rural sulking in the story that you can read in 1 Kings 19. Elijah was doing his poor little me thing out at Horeb. Admittedly, he was in fear of his life rather than having to use an old bike. But God wanted to have a word with him. And various spectacular manifestations of the power of nature took place. A tornado, an earthquake, and a fire, which you would have thought, especially if you're a well-known prophet, would have been God trying to get in touch with you. But then it all went quiet, and God whispered in Elijah's ear, just to assure him of his presence and of the support of many other faithful people. As a result of that, Elijah's situation was rapidly and comprehensively transformed. The present lockdown offers us the opportunity to be quiet and listen for God's voice. So often in the buzz and bluster of normal life, we seem to expect God to shout over all the other stuff that's happening. But we have the opportunity in these days just to take a few moments of real peace and stillness and simply wait for God's voice. And you can do that anywhere, really. No need to go to Horeb or even cycle out to Elford. He won't always speak, in which case just enjoy the peace and quiet anyway. But at least you'll be expectant and giving God the opportunity to make himself known to you again. Give it a go, whether you're in the seclusion of your back garden, on your daily exercise walk, or sitting in the kitchen with the radio off. Keep smiling. Be safe. Be still.